Did you know that God actually wanted Adam and Eve to eat the apple because only then could man become like God, since we are created in God's image? The snake is not a symbol of Satan because Satan cannot dwell in paradise. So what is the snake actually? Watch the video to the end to find out all the answers, and please hit that like button to boost algorithm. When Moses writes about Adam and Eve, he is not necessarily telling us about the first humans, but about the Creator's design and the essence of the human being. The Bible describes how God created man and what attributes he gave him, but nowhere does it say that they were the first people on earth. What is crucial is that Moses clearly explains how God first created souls, and only later created physical bodies. During the 6 days of creation, the souls of every living being were made. Every animal, every creature has its own unique soul, which is very important. We cannot talk about reincarnation as the transfer of a soul from one species to another, say, from a cat to a dog, and then to a human. Each species has its own specific soul, and this is one of the key teachings of the Bible. According to Moses, on the 5th day, God created the soul of man, both male and female, in his own image. Bodies were created later, after God rested on the 7th day. It was then that he created Adam, shaping him from the dust of the earth and breathing into him the breath of life, making him a living soul. This raises an important question. Where was Adam created? Adam was created in a higher dimension. How do we know this? Because originally, he had both spiritual principles, male and female, united in one perfect being. To better understand, we can use the example of an imagined perfect entity. Imagine that Adam was originally like a crystal ball containing both blue and red light, male and female principles unified in one perfect being. When Adam was created, he was not divided into male and female, but represented a complete whole. Only later, in this physical world, did God decide to separate those principles. God later separated these principles when he created Eve from Adam's rib. We can imagine this as the separation of blue and red light from the same sphere. Thus, two distinct beings were created, male and female, two separate spiritual principles, yet both originating from the same source, the perfect Adam. Man consists of reason and instinct. When Adam and Eve were created, God gave them a task. He told them not to eat from one particular tree. If they ate, they would die. God then watched how their reason would develop, as the key to spiritual ascension lies in reason. For man to progress from biological life and acquire a body for a higher dimension, he must activate his reason. Through the activation of reason, we can attain wisdom, which would allow for easier spiritual advancement. Interestingly, many people believe that the snake in the Garden of Eden is a symbol of Satan, but this is not true. Satan cannot be in paradise. The snake is actually a symbol of reason. The Bible says that the Creator was observing Adam and Eve and waiting for their reason to awaken, because only when that happens can man progress and rise through the 3 parts of the brain: the reptilian, the mammalian, and the human. The reptilian part represents the lowest level of consciousness, while the human part is the highest. Only when we reach the human part of the brain can we harmonize the male and female principles we have discussed. Eve looked at the apple and saw 3 key things. First, the apple was beautiful, which represents an aesthetic sense. Second, the apple was good to eat, which relates to the instinct for self-preservation. Third, the apple was good for gaining knowledge, indicating that reason was beginning to evolve into wisdom. The snake, that is, reason, tells Eve, "You will not die, but your eyes will be opened, and you will become like gods." This means that man will be able to use his reason to rise and develop. God created man in his own image and gave him the ability to become divine through spiritual development. Therefore, reason says, "No, you will not die. On the contrary, you will become immortal, like gods, because you have the chance to ascend to divine heights." In the end, God says, "Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil." This quote, "Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil," points to the moment when Adam and Eve gain the knowledge that makes them more like God or divine beings. This knowledge represents awareness of good and evil, symbolizing the transition from innocence to a state of consciousness and responsibility. To better understand this, we can use the example of a parent and child. Imagine a child who is completely innocent and unaware of dangers or the moral implications of their actions. As the child grows, they begin to distinguish between right and wrong and take responsibility for their choices. Similarly, Adam and Eve, after eating the apple, became aware of moral dilemmas. They became, in essence, like gods, because they could now understand the subtle differences between good and evil. This awareness brings with it freedom, but also the burden of responsibility. That is why it is often said that the moment they ate the fruit was the moment of their spiritual maturation. God wanted them to reach that level of awareness because spiritual advancement is inseparable from understanding and knowledge. In this way, man becomes more like God through consciousness, reason, and the ability to make moral decisions. Therefore, this quote represents a key part of human destiny, the acquisition of knowledge and awareness that can elevate us, as human beings, to a divine level, but at the same time obligates us to be responsible for our actions and the world in which we live.